So, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Feeling and Healing podcast. This is Danielle Z, MFT in the making, motivator, and mental health maven. And today, I am so excited to welcome Danie Muniz, another Danie slash Danielle. So, double dose of Danielle today. And she is a somatic guide and astrology-based coach, and she helps ambitious owners and business owners heal their relationship wounds so they can thrive in their lives and their business. So welcome, Denny.
Thank you, Danielle. It is double Danielle's
Double
today.
double D today. Double D.
Double
I
D.
think I said this to you the first time we met. I've never met like a Danielle I didn't like, and
Yep.
you keep that streak going.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah. So, and I know the work you do. I think it's so important, and I would love for you to like, because you're kind of more of an expert than me. I'm just kind of dabbling in this in my own healing journey, but like the somatic healing and how important somatic healing is to your for your nervous system, for your mental health, your physical health, the physiological. I would just love you to kind of tell the audience about your approach you take it with your clients and like the importance of looking at somatic healing and focusing on that.
Yeah, I love that you asked that question, Danielle, because I think in my journey of healing, right? Like I started, I think where everybody kind of starts, and that's in the mind, right? The mindset, which
Mm-hmm.
I 100% agree is like the place to start. And we can't ever let go of that. It's like not that they just move into somatic work only. They work hand in hand, right? The body and the mind work together. And I think for a long time, which I'm so glad somatic work is really coming into the forefront now, is we've worked on the mind, and a lot of people have done a lot of mindset work, but
Mm-hmm.
the healing, the full healing comes when we introduce somatic work in. And for me, what I feel like my approach is helping the people reconnect back to their body. For some
Mm.
reason, along our journeys, we get disconnected from ourselves, our
Mm.
physical self, not just our emotional self, was right, as I know we'll talk about, but like I, the body is our very first line of information.
Yep.
The body knows before the mind. And so I'm so glad that people are starting to realize how important somatic work is, because I believe in if we can connect back to our body, and we can start understanding the signals that our body is giving us and learning how to regulate our nervous system, which you mentioned, being able, and I also want to state this here because I'm really being called to state it here, is we learn to regulate the nervous system, not so that we can be in peace and calm and love all the time,
Yes.
because
Yes.
that's a
Yeah.
freaking fallacy. But I think sometimes we get into that, right, Danielle? Like, I just
Yeah.
want to have peace, and I think
Exactly.
like that's the measure of like, oh, I know I've done the work, or I know I've really been working on myself if I've hit this level of, whatever your expectation is around that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Mm-hmm.
not it. That's not it at all. We do that work, the somatic work of regulating the nervous system, so you know how your body feels in that state of relaxed, calm, and peace, and how you can move yourself through the emotional scale, right? We don't have
Yeah.
the emotional scale just to have it, right?
Yeah.
We're humans. We're gonna
Absolutely.
go
Yeah.
through all of those. I'll straight up honest. This morning, when I sat down at my computer to get started for work,
Mm-hmm.
when I looked, because every morning I look at the emotional scale and I'm like, where am I? Where am I right now? Where
I
am
love
I
that.
right
Oh my
now?
gosh, I love that exercise. That's awesome.
And you know where I was? I was in fear. And I
Mm.
was like, why? I was like, okay. So curiosity, right? Why am I in
Yeah.
fear? But then I'm like, okay, wait. Let me just allow myself to be in fear, in whatever
Mm-hmm.
wants to be in fear. Did a little bit of journaling, and then did my normal practices. And by the time I got to the end of the practices, I'd already moved in that scale from being in fear to being in optimism and hope. Like I had moved up just in the matter of 20, 30 minutes, because I know how to regulate my nervous system. I know what it takes for me personally, right? The acts for me to do to feel good. So that, and I'm not saying that I'm like suppressing that fear, or I'm
No, no,
pushing
no,
that
no.
fear
You
down, right?
processed through it. You did, from my perspective. You you know yourself well enough, you know
Hmm.
your body well enough that you were
Hmm.
like, all right, here I'm a little off baseline this morning. And then you process through it, which is exactly what emotions want to do. I always say to people,
Exactly.
emotions demand to be felt. They will, like, as much as you want to, like, you want to put them in a corner, you want to suppress them, they will come out in some way, shape, or form. I'm
Yeah.
like, everybody's different. But like you, it's so funny you shared that because literally before we got on this call. And for all those of you, I had to delay the call, our podcast episode recording a little bit because I was like literally shoving food down my throat. I was like, I need to eat lunch. Like this whole day, like I've been like, for some odd reason, forgive me for Mondays are like my runway day, but Tuesday, like I'm like bad out of hell. Like I'm like bam, 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 bam. But
Yeah.
today is one of those days, the mornings, like very productive. But when I was emailing you, I like literally like I got back to my computer at a good time and I was like, Danielle, just sit here for a second and just take 8 deep breaths. Like I was like, because I could feel like I felt rushed. Like
Yeah.
I probably wasn't to the point of fear, but I felt like rushed and I was like, if I don't pause right now, this can then impact and have a ripple effect the rest of my day. And I think
Hmm.
what your and mine experiences are like kind of showing everybody, it's like that's all it takes.
100%. I
Like,
think
you know?
people say all the time, like, how do I do this and how do I do that and how do I like, how do I get to here and how do I get to there? Like, you're so good at doing this, and it's like you just said, Danielle, and I love that we both had that experience today of something so small. Like, the people say when you don't have 5 minutes is when you actually need the 5 minutes, right? Like,
I
even
love that.
taking, I'm sure your 8 breaths probably took you less than 5 minutes to
Oh,
do.
yeah. Took me less. I mean,
A few
I,
minutes,
I
maybe.
maybe didn't breathe deeply enough, and now I'm being hard on myself for that. But like, it took me, yeah, less than 15 seconds to just like deep breath in, deep breath out, like just focusing on my breath for a couple seconds, and I could feel it resetting
Resetting.
my nervous system. But as you said too, with you knowing it's because you know your body. And
Yes.
I was literally having a conversation with a nurse practitioner yesterday and a woman who does similar work that you do. She does inner child work. I know you're not inner child, but I know you're like we're very spiritual work. So I know you
Yeah.
guys share that in common. And we were just
Yeah.
talking about exactly what you just said, that you're like everybody thinks it's the mind, the mind, the mind. Yes, and I'm not discounting the mind because I'm a mental health advocate. I,
Yeah.
like I am my like mind I'm like very
Mind.
aware of, but you're right. You hit the nail on the head and we had a similar conversation that your body will tell you because your mind can play tricks on you
Always.
because you have your thinking brain and your feeling brain and
Yep.
your mind is as sophisticated as a muscle that it is. It's it's wired for the negative. It's there to keep you to so it's just basically there to keep you alive and keep you
Hmm.
safe.
Hmm.
But your body will tell you and your nervous system will tell you if you're not safe, if you feel fear, if you feel, that's your signal of like, or in on the positive note, like, see, I just did it. Like my brain just did that to me. I went
Yep.
to the negative first.
Yep.
When
Yep.
I'm like, I like to be positive and I like to be more on the glass half full side, but literally my brain just did that. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why I do think like, affirmations, mindfulness exercises are so effective. But
Hmm.
as you said too, like, and also too, and I feel like this is the third time I think I've mentioned this on a podcast, this book, but the book, The Body Keeps the Score
Yes.
by
Such a good
Bessel
book.
von Vanderkerk. Your body holds things.
The really
And
beautiful thing about somatic work, and you saying that, and I want to touch on something really quick before I go there.
oh,
That is that
absolutely.
you said something, and I think it is we want to automatically say, oh, I didn't do it good enough. I didn't do it enough. You said I didn't breathe
I
deep enough.
know.
But I want you to recognize, Danielle, and this is for the listener as well, you didn't need to. to have the shift that
Mm.
you needed, because all your body needed you to do was slow down and focus in. And that's what you did. And that brought you into the present. It got you out of, future thinking or whatever,
Mhm.
and got you into the present, which is what your body needed you to do. And that is powerful. So I just wanted to tell you that, give you
Oh,
props,
thank
because
you.
it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, oh, I didn't breathe long enough. I should have had 10 breaths, or I should have did them slower. Like, we have all the reasons of why we didn't do something right, but what you did was enough to have the shift that your body needed, and that's what's important. Okay,
Well,
there
thank
we
you
go.
for validating that. I appreciate it because as a struggling perfectionist and somebody who always just I'm like always climbing. I'm like, good isn't good enough, Danielle. Like keep going, keep going. And I'm like, I sometimes do have to sit and stop myself and say, it's okay to just like I chose a vocation and a career that I will always be climbing the mountain, but it's okay to stop and look and be like, wow, the view is nice here. You know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
like it's okay to do that. Like I always don't have to be like go go go. But so thank you. I appreciate you saying that because
Absolutely.
and thank you for
Absolutely. It's
seeing me.
important.
Yeah, I
You
appreciate
you
it.
you deserve to be seen as everybody else does, Danielle.
So I have so many I know we were just talking about somatic.
I
Well,
know.
I said I could talk to our my guests. I always say for literally the whole day.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
amazing, but I always say to people that like being seen, and I'm sure I would love your opinion and your perspective on this, like being seen is probably one of the most like I don't want to demean the meaning behind it because it's one of the most it's the smallest but one of the most powerful things you can do for another human being to truly see them. Like what you just did for me right there, like I feel now like empowered. I feel like valuable. You know, it's such a small it was such a small moment, but the impact of it is so powerful.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. They say to say people's names, right? Like,
Mm.
that's the
Hmm.
sweetest words people will ever hear. And it goes to that point, Danielle, when you are able to witness somebody in their true authenticity, or just in who they are, like without,
Yeah.
even if they are in their masks or their shadows or whatever, but to truly see them, like, that's everything. And I think for a long time in my life, like, I tried, I think I told my love probably, we've been together almost 12 years now, but we were
Mhm.
first dating. He said something to me. We were like he was like dropping me off from a date or something. And this was like the moment that I realized I had not allowed myself to be seen by other people, like truly be seen. And he said something to me, and I turned to him and I said, "Thank you for seeing
Mm.
me."
That's
It
a
was the
well,
first time, like first time. And that like took me on a whole other journey, but like that was that was so powerful for me. Just the little thing. I don't even remember what he said, but I
what he
remember
said.
how I
Yeah.
felt,
Mm-hmm.
that like, wow, and to myself to be like, wow, you feel comfortable enough to actually allow yourself to remove all the masks and to let him see you. And that was such a powerful moment for us in our relationship too.
I absolutely love that moment for you guys because I'm sure that I mean I can feel it like you know what I mean like that it was like a defining like as you said taking off your masks because you know and I that's another thing that I think you know, we're all humans, right? You know what I mean? Like and we try our best to live our most authentic selves. But of course, you know, like I would be lying if I didn't say that, you know, like, I mean, sometimes my inner voice says things to myself that I'm like around people. I'm like, yeah, Danielle, just keep it in. Don't say it. Like, you know, so
Yeah.
unfortunately, this world, I think the system that we're in, and I would, as a systemic thinker, I think is built for us to constantly be putting on masks. Like I say all the time, like I work with a lot of clients who are in corporate America and me coming
Yeah.
from that background, like you're told, like even my dad is a boomer corporate guy, like company man. Like I think he's worked for three companies his whole career. He's like in his early 60s, like so that's like, you know, he did pretty big stretches at
Yeah.
companies and
Yeah.
he's always told he when I was working in corporate America, he'd be like, Danielle, like just put your personal stuff at the door. Like don't, you know, be rational, don't be emotional. And I'm like, but that's like not me. And I work with a lot of my clients to really try to hone in their core selves and stay aligned to those core values because we live unfortunately in environments that
Hmm.
are telling us no, suppress your emotion. And then what does that do? Affects your
Oh,
nervous system,
yep,
stays in your body. After cycles, it calcifies and then you have a mental breakdown.
yep, yep. You can no The body can no longer contain. It's like it's hit its capacity, and
Mhm.
that's where we have the breakdowns. When I started studying that, like I didn't understand that concept. Like, how does that work? But it's true. So every incident, so getting back to this idea of somatic work,
Yeah.
every experience that we have had, and it talks about this in The Body Keeps a Score, our body
Mm.
remembers. And so
Yeah.
if our body has not been allowed to express itself, like you can see this in nature, right? Nature is the
Mhm.
best teacher ever because you can look
Yes.
at animals. My dog, my pug, I have a pug. He's not in here in my
Oh.
room today. He's outside on the balcony enjoying the like beautiful weather we're having today. And he will get up and he will just shake his body, right?
Mhm.
He's
Yeah.
resetting his nervous system automatically. If somebody pets him, what does he do? He shakes again. He's shaking off the energy of that person. Like, it's just these little things that they do, but the body automatic, like he's not thinking. Like my dog does not have the, I wish they really did. And sometimes I think he's so smart that he might be
Oh
human.
no, yeah, I
However,
wish they had verbal skills sometimes. I'm like, if you could just talk to me right now, I feel like it was so actually so funny you mentioned dogs. Sorry to cut you off.
no.
Funny aside, I'm in an office today and one of the administrators she has a, a service dog because she has a disorder that, helps her. And the dog literally, like, I mean, when he has his vest on, he's the service dog. But when
Yeah.
she took it off for me to say hi, and he literally like put his paws up on my shoulders and like gave me a hug. I was
Yeah,
like,
he knew.
I was like, your dog knows how to hug. I was
Yeah.
like, that is amazing. But anyway, go on. Sorry. I
No, you're
apologize.
good.
You said I was just like, but you're so right. Like I always say, like the world would be a better place if we all just were like dogs. Like,
I would agree.
like,
I would agree. That'd be great. But
yeah,
but that's the thing is like our bodies, we stop ourselves from feeling the emotion, from allowing the body to express, which animals do naturally, right? And so
mm-hmm,
when we're doing somatic work, all we're doing is allowing the body to express what it
mm-hmm.
never got to express. So I often say like I do somatic breath work so I don't go ballistic on somebody while I'm driving. Like
Yeah,
that's just what it is. Because if I, like you said, you were already feeling a little bit of irritation or agitation
yeah,
of some sort of like this overwhelmed feeling, if you allow that to continue on and then maybe on your drive home or whatever, like later on in the day somebody cut you off and then now you're like
yep,
even more frustrated and then you get home and
mm-hmm,
I don't know, maybe the cat spilled something and now you're like now you're like, your best friend calls you and you're like yelling at them and just because you're expressing the emotion finally in a way that works. I only know this because I used to do that, right? I would hold
yeah,
my emotion in so much
mm-hmm,
because I was agitated, again, like you, in the corporate world because of whatever, the corporate
yeah,
politics, the
yep,
ideas in corporate,
bureaucracy, yeah,
all of it. And so when there was this one time where was so frustrated, so stressed out from work. I had my family was having a lot of disagreements at the time, and so there was a lot of struggle for me in those areas. And so like my cup was so filled with all the stress that I had no space for anything else. And so what did I do? I came to visit my love again. When we were dating. I don't know how, like the fact that we were able to work through all of that stuff. I mean, I wasn't perfect. He wasn't perfect either, but like we were able to work through that. I think that's why we're still so strong, all these
yeah,
years later. But I got to his place and he was at the bottom of his stairs and he had his like arms open, like ready to like give me a hug, like very similar to your idea of this dog, right? Like just ready to give me a hug. And I was like, I can't believe this. And I just like went off, like yelled about how frustrated I was at my boss, about my mom, about like I just
mm-hmm.
went off my coworkers and I can't believe this happened and this and then like the deadlines and I was so stressed out and I started walking up the stairs, totally bypassed him, right? Got up to the stairs and then his door wasn't open. It was locked and I was like, why isn't the
And now
door
the
open?
door
Like
is locked. Exactly. Yeah.
it like was that ripple effect. And then so then what happened? And I see this all the time. What happened? He got mad because he wasn't in a place that he was able to control his own emotion at that time, right? So what did he do? He yelled back. He's
Hmm.
like, dang, no, 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 no respect, no gratitude, like all, and then we just went off. And so there we are 2 hours later, fully frustrated. But what happened? My body needed to get all of
Get
that
all that
out.
out.
That's what it, and so then I felt like exhausted, I felt
Of
tired
course. This, yeah,
because
yeah, it's
all of it had to come out.
emotionally exhausting, especially like holding something in for that long. Like, like, and as I said, like life is gonna life, right? Like you and I think anybody, any adult that is living, any person, honestly, I'm gonna just say person because children are involved in this too. Living in the society we live in today that is
Yeah.
so overstimulated,
Hmm.
just literally like our nervous system is firing at all times.
All times.
Like we need to like slow down and
Yeah.
like, and that's when your body. And like, but the thing is too, what I also love, you cannot, so this is not my quote because I love quotes. I'll say when it's mine, but it's not. Like I forget where I heard it, but it was like you can't learn to regulate an emotion that you haven't felt.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes.
you kind of need to get there. Like, unfortunately, yes, that situation, of course, like
Yeah.
you didn't want that to happen.
Of
Like,
course not.
but you had to get there to understand, all right, like you were talking about your scale, right? And I would love for you to
Yep.
talk about a little bit more about that for like because I like actually wrote that down because I was like I should do that in the morning because I do the feelings wheel.
Yeah.
And then for those of you who
It's a
don't
good
know,
one.
the feelings wheel, I post it on Instagram all the time. It's like, defining your feelings. So because I'm a feeler. But I love that you do the scale because it kind of, yeah, it's like, it's more, I guess, measurable. Like the feelings wheel is great, but it's more just
Yeah.
like, all right, a statement. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like the
Yeah.
scale is like more measurable
Mhm.
and you can be like, all right, I'm at I'm at anger, I'm at fear, I'm at content, and I think too, it's also too knowing yourself, like just because you have that scale, it's like it's knowing your own emotions, right? Like,
Mhm.
because personally, I tell this to everybody, like for me to get angry, it has to be like pretty bad, like or
Mhm.
emotions have been suppressed. Because I'm a Pisces. I know you do astrology, so
Yeah.
I am like very like I'm like I would rather cry than yell, like I would cry
Yeah.
first, and I'm like I don't I but if you get to me to a point of anger, like that's when like when I see red, like
That's
watch
it.
out. Like and
Yeah.
and I've gotten there unfortunately in the past and I know that, but I rarely get there. So if I'm in an environment around a person that gets me there, I'm like, I'm sorry, not sorry, but you got to go. Like or I have to leave because that's my nervous system, that's my body telling me no. And also too with energy and just spirituality in the universe, I'm like that anything that is meant for you is going to give you peace, calm,
100%.
you know?
That's where the body comes into play,
Yes.
right? Because
Mhm.
when you, like I say that I have this like emotion like regulator, right? And so it's like processes that can help people like and I know you have some as well. One of the things that I you might do as well is body mapping, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep,
if
body
I
scan. Yep.
I think of a person. So, like, let's say there's a particular person that you're having, an experience with. Maybe you're frustrated at them, or you're upset with them, or whatever. What I always say is like, okay, let's get into a neutral place with this person, where there's
Mhm.
like a neutral energy around this person, no high, no low, because we can easily be like in the frustration and check in with our body, and our body's like, they're evil, they're horrible, they need to be out of our life. But then we check them on a really high moment and we're like, oh, they're so loving and
Yeah,
so beautiful, this is great,
exactly. Yep,
right? And so
yep.
like if they feel so good in my body, like it's like, okay, so let's get into a neutral place. But from that neutral place, now check in with your body, and where, like, what do you feel in your body when you think of that person from that neutral place? That tells you what you're like honestly feel about that person, not
Mhm.
from the high, not from the low, but from that place of neutrality is whew, that's like key. Like for me, when I started tuning into like, do I want to participate in this thing? Do I want to do this thing?
Mhm.
Like, especially networking. I'm an introvert. I don't like networking. It's not my forte, but I do love connecting with people, right?
Yeah,
And so I'm like, okay, let's fill into this. Like, how do I feel around this? And all those feelings would start to come up, and I'm like, oh, it's because I don't like that. I have all these negative I have like a negative mindset around
yeah, negative
networking,
self-talk
right?
around it. Yeah, and like limiting
Totally.
beliefs. Yeah.
All of it, all of it. So I was like, okay, let's get to a neutral, because I have ones that I really, really love and ones that I really, really hate. And I'm like, but when I come from a neutral place, I'm in a neutral place about like, what does it feel like to connect with people, which is a little bit of a reframe, right? What does it feel like to connect with people? It's like, oh, my heart opens, my body, like my energy expands, like
Hmm.
a smile came across my face. I was like, oh, okay. So I do enjoy this. It's just, I have to find the right environments that are for me. And not every
Absolutely.
environment is for me. And I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, I think yeah, I would agree with you, and I have had similar experiences. Like I and also too, I think being in environments that we know aren't good for us, but like we have to force ourselves through, as we said, like wearing that mask, it's even more exhausting. Like I can tell, and I think for me, it happens a lot around certain people. Um, where like if somebody is right for you if they drain your energy or if they give you energy. It's either people are
Yes.
batteries or they're energy vampires.
Yep.
And I've rarely met, and I know me as a person, that I am an energy giver. So when I like people that are I will say in my life, unfortunately, people that are energy vampires love me
Yeah.
because I'm very open, I'm expansive, I'm deeply compassionate. Like, so, but they will literally
Suck.
suck you dry. Like that's why they call them energy vampires. And I've
Vampires. Yeah.
unfortunately been privy to, and but like that's something I had to learn. Like
Yes.
I had to learn in my body, what does that feel like?
Yeah.
Because like, I had to, and honestly, it didn't happen once. It didn't happen twice. It happened like multiple times that I like, and of course, like I have many people in my life, but and I'm not saying that, like you have to cut people out of your life, but like and I'm
No.
not saying I tell this person like, oh, you're an energy vampire. You know what I mean?
You need to get out of my life.
Like, yeah, like
Sorry.
I'm not well, and I also too, like I get it's all like situational, right? Like in
Mhm.
relationship, like as you said, like with like when you went off on your boyfriend, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like he couldn't hold space for you then. Like you both couldn't
Nope.
hold space for one another, but
Nope.
we're human. Like that's part of the human condition. But
Yep.
in I'm like maybe I'm generalizing here, which I shouldn't be generalizing, but I'm gonna do it. Like in general, if people, I know like everybody has a bad day, right? Like, you know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm gonna have to, take in a little bit more than average. But if it's the pattern, if when it becomes a pattern, I feel
Mhm.
of, you feel drained, like you'll pick up on it and you'll be like, okay, maybe, not for me, or that's why I love like where people everybody that I bring on this podcast, like after I talk to people like you and I feel like $1 million. I'm like I want to like change the world, like I want to, you know what I mean? So like, but that's because you have good energy, and but that's also the power of it.
Yep. Yep. I would 100% agree. That's why, like, if you're so like each we'll talk a little astrology for a second. Like each
Oh my God,
zone.
I love I love me some astrology. I love somebody, and I would say you're probably so much more well versed than me on this, but I am fascinated by it.
So I would say, like, if you're talking, one of the reasons that I love astrology is that it gives me a roadmap for my own mental health, my own,
Hmm.
personal development, right? And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is each season gives us an opportunity to explore the themes of that zodiac sign, right? So when we're looking at Libra season or Gemini season or Taurus season, right?
Yep.
Each season has its own unique energy. And the way I like to look at things is like, okay, like there's so many things I could work on. There's so many things that I
Yeah,
can look at in my
it's
life.
endless.
Like, it's like, yeah, like I'm like,
Yeah, the
oh,
list
this
is
and this
very
and this.
long.
So I'm like, okay, we're in Libra season. So in Libra season, what can I focus on? I can focus on my relationships. I can
Mm,
focus on how I am partnering and what I am in relation with, which can cover a whole spectrum of things. But then I start looking and evaluating my relationships. Like, is this an, as you said, an energy giving relationship? Is this an energy draining relationship? And, you know, even with clients, when I was first starting my business, I was like, I'll take everybody because
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to build
You're trying to build. Yep. Yep. Yep.
my books. I'm trying to like my experience, like all of that. And I quickly found out how people could be energy drainers for me. They could be complete vampires for me, even though they were paying me. And I'm
I was
like,
like, yeah, exactly.
whoa,
Even if they're monetarily paying you, energetically,
energetically.
they were they were taking from you. And I always
Yeah.
say my energy is a gift, not a
Hmm.
given.
Hmm.
So with every, and that's with everybody, not just me. Like your energy
Yeah.
is a gift. Like
No.
thank you for your attention and time today. Because that I always say your time bank and your energy bank, and that's a bank that never has deposits. It's
Nope.
only withdrawals.
Yep.
So like money, like I can always make more money. I can always have
Absolutely.
more stuff or whatever, replace something. Like, but I'm like my time, my energy, my attention,
No.
the like my like, and also too, if I'm giving to you, I'm sure you feel the same way, like giving to you emotionally, that emotional investment, I like I love that you brought up like relationship season, because it's funny. I mean, I follow astrology as in I as in I like I would say like I'm like maybe if I on a scale of 1 to 10 of like you're probably an expert, like one being like knowing nothing, like I mean like I would say maybe I'm like at like a 6.
Okay, you're
I
good.
know
Yeah,
my,
you
you
know
know,
stuff.
my I have my natal chart, I have all that stuff, but like I don't like I'm not well versed on like, you know, like all the I know the different houses, but like I can't off the top of my head tell you like which one is
Yeah.
which. Um, but I love that you also mentioned like the seasonality, because it was ironic that you mentioned it's relationship season for Libra season, because this morning I literally was on my when I was on my way to the office, I was like, oh, like I'm just gonna like go through my phone and like just do it. And it took me probably less than half an hour because of this is the beautiful thing about technology. Like just I'm like, let's just do like a check-in with pretty much like everybody. Like I was
Yeah.
like, hey, and all it took was, hi, how are you? Like nothing like, oh,
Yeah.
like, you know, some people had got a little bit more of a personalized message, like because of where I know where they're at in their lives.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I was like, but that matters because there is a return. And I was having a conversation with this with another entrepreneur weeks ago. There's a return on relationship because you're
Absolutely.
emotionally investing.
Yep.
And I have found, and I had an experience as of late, unfortunately, somebody did not see the emotional investment that I had put in. And they were like, well, like, I was here for you. Yeah. But I'm like, we're just not on the same, like, I expect a return. I expect a relationship return when I give that part of myself, because what I'm giving you is a gift.
Well, every relationship has an exchange, right? Even from a client to
Mm-hmm.
like with you, with your clients, right? There's an exchange that we're giving. We expect them to do their work, right? We expect them to show
Yeah.
up for their calls. We expect them to be honest with us. We expect them to have conversations, right? That's the energy exchange that we're having, even in that client relationship. But
Yeah.
even in this podcast, right? Even in this episode right here, we're having an exchange, right? You're putting your time and energy out, right, to host this. And I'm putting my time and energy out to be here, to have this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. This is an exchange. And when
Yeah.
there is, as you said, we don't see that exchange in a relationship. And I guess, you know, from my perspective, like it depends on the relationship because there are
Yes,
some
it does.
relationships that I like. I know where I'm at with my mother right now in my life, and I know it's not an equal exchange as it may have once been back in the day. And I'm okay with that because I've come to that realization and I don't expect her. This was a huge realization for me. I don't expect all of my relationships to fill all my cups. Like, I don't expect my love to fill every single cup that I possibly
Exactly.
have.
I think
He
that's kind of
cannot do that.
impossible. I think
It
that's an
is.
impossible expectation. And as a I'm a therapist as well, coach and therapist, and working with
Yeah.
couples, I found that it's hard to tell them, but the ones you have to know what their expectations are going in, but
Yeah.
a lot of times they're not the same, because like think about it, you're taking two different people from two different systems with two
Yep.
different core beliefs and core values, two different habits, two different brains, depending on your gender, sometimes different genders, different
Yeah.
hormones, different bodies, and putting
Yeah.
them together and being like, be merry. And it's like that. I think it's I think it's an unrealistic expectation that one person, and unfortunately society and Disney movies and whatever, what fill in the blank has taught us, like, oh, you're
Yeah.
supposed to get your cup filled by one person. And it's like, no, like that's why, as you said, you have different relationships.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have friends, like my love
Exactly.
is somebody who is, from an astrology standpoint, he's an Aquarius moon. And so he, and a Gemini sun. So he's super curious, super like loves to learn things, but is not on the emotion. I'm not gonna say he doesn't have emotion. He absolutely
Of
has
course.
emotion, but he's just not in tuned with emotions as I might be in tuned with emotions, right? And so he is not somebody who I'm gonna be like, he's not gonna come to me like and just give me a big hug because he knows that's what I need. That's not who he is, right? I had to learn that in our relationship, but that's not who he
Of
is.
course. Of course.
So
It's all of evolution.
absolutely. And so I know that if I do need him to give, I do need him to give me a hug, I have to say, hey, baby, I just need a hug right now.
Exactly.
Right?
But
It's
that's like,
knowing what I need
and then
first, like,
effectively communicating it.
and then communicating that to him. And he's like, oh, right. And he'll just give me the
And
hug.
I'm sure he's more, yeah, he's more than willing to do it.
Absolutely. And then there's times where I need to go to my girlfriends and be like, I need to talk this out. I need to,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And that's that they're filling my cup and they're giving me that in that way. Like I don't expect him to solve all my problems. I don't expect him to be all of the things. That's unrealistic, as you said. And so that is why all the different relationships are so important. And what we give and what we get is very important. If a relationship that is so close to you, though, and that's the hard part, that it's your intimate partner or somebody who is influencing you in a big way, and that person is
Family
not an,
member.
it's not an equal exchange, that's where the problems start to lie for us. And that's where, right, we go to therapists and coaches to help us work through that so we can establish where that relationship is in our spectrum. I actually read a book, we talk about relationships, rich relationships. It's a little bit more
Mm.
targeted towards an entrepreneur type space. But here's the thing, is it talked about how we have these different types of relationships, and we only have a few relationships that are like our core, that I would say are like our closest to us. And then everybody kind of goes back from there, whether it's acquaintances or whether it's, sometimes the family members are a little bit further back,
Mhm.
right? It's just giving you kind of a concept of how those relationships work in your life. So you don't feel, because this is what I felt. I felt like all my relationships had to be really
Had to be
close.
close. Yeah, no.
And they don't. They
No,
don't.
no,
I have
no.
like two, three friends that I talk to probably on a weekly basis. And then I have other friends, like, which they're a little bit layer out, right?
Yeah.
They still fill my cup. I still love hanging out with them, but they're not the ones that I'm going to go to.
Yeah, they're on the peripheral.
And that helped me, as you said, like when I'm texting people, like you said, right? You have that, even just as you talked about this morning. Like certain ones are going to get a little bit more because you have a different relationship with them,
Hmm.
and you're in more conversation with them than you are with others. So that's why, like, I like to look at like the different seasons to say, oh, evaluate how am I working and functioning in this area of my life? What relationships maybe do I need to cut out? What relationships are those energy vampires? What relationships do I want to nurture maybe, or see if I can rebuild, because maybe there has been something that might have, happened in the relationship. Maybe I want to rebuild a relationship again, or maybe I'm ready for some new
And
relationships, and
I
maybe
was
that
getting up.
relationship
You're
is a
ready
new
for the open,
connection.
yeah, the new, because it's, as
Mhm.
you said, seasonality. And speaking of relationships, so there's a famous another. Sorry, what a quote again? I don't know who said it, but it's like your people in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And
Yep.
it's like, a lot of relationships are seasonal. And as a relational thinker, I think of relationships as like the two people, individual, and then there's the relationship. So when you're in a relationship, and then within systems, there's like it's
Even more.
so, and then you're in communities and then society. So
Yep.
it's amazing what you can see. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. You have to kind of, and honestly, I'm a big, and I'm sure you are too, you need to also put work in the relationship for yourself, with yourself. That's
Absolutely.
one of my first things that when my clients come to me, I'm like, if you haven't invested, how do you expect to get any return from yourself if you haven't given to yourself, if you
Mhm.
haven't loved yourself, if you haven't you know, giving your whole held space for you. How
Mm-hmm.
are you, how do you expect to go through the world and grow if you haven't planted your seeds?
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. None of us were ever taught to hold space for ourselves, right?
I
And
know.
I would agree. That's the very first thing with anybody that I work with. It's like, let's start with the
Relationship.
relationship
Yep.
with
I'd
yourself.
start with you. Yeah.
Number one. And then we can look at other relationships. But number one, you've got to feel safe within yourself. And I think this is it too. And you probably experience this is if when we're working with people, right? When you're working through things that are a little bit more challenging and maybe things that you've suppressed for a long time, they can feel uncomfortable in some situations. People are like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time to deal with that. Like, I don't have time
Mm-hmm.
to deal with all that. I've got all these other things to do, which is the number one thing you probably should be dealing with. But the thing is if you haven't built a relationship with yourself, there's no wonder why you don't want to go explore these things because you don't even feel safe within yourself to go explore them. Because that's what that reads to me. When I hear that, I'm like, oh, you don't feel safe within yourself to go explore these things. So let's work on that first.
Yeah, and it to be, to validate what you just said, like it's hard like to go to get to safety. Like I always say like the only way out of it is through it.
Through it.
And with
Mm-hmm.
like when you're experiencing like cuz I do a lot of parts work, I do a lot of like identity work, like that's where I start, like core self,
Yeah.
your self work, self. And
Mm-hmm.
I say this all the time, and that's why also I do the work that I do, and probably you do the work that you do too, is like a lot of this population, and it breaks my heart to say this, a lot of people will live their whole lives without ever knowing their core selves.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it saddens me that I'm like you're like, and they're not even
They don't
conscious
even
of
know
it.
it.
Like
Mm-mm.
if they're not, they're like, oh yeah, but I know myself. I know myself. I'm like, well, let me ask you a couple questions. And it doesn't take much
No.
to like you. I'm not like saying you have to like like be as maybe like deep as we're going here. Like because I
Mm-hmm.
know like I always say like I'm an ocean. Like I go deep. Like I would not have
Same.
chosen my careers that I wanted to go into and becoming a therapist after being a coach. Like if I didn't want to understand more,
Yep.
because that's all. Like I mean I could break it apart into so many little pieces until
Yep.
there's nothing to break apart
Yep.
again. But you can tell very quickly, just by very simple question, like not even like just being curious and not saying you're just having conversations with people of how, because people can only meet you as far and as deep as they met themselves.
Yep.
So I
100%.
can't have a conversation like this with somebody that hasn't met themselves. Like that's how I can tell if you've done your work. And not like I'm sitting around here being like, "Well, you've done your work, so you deserve to talk to me." No,
No.
I'm not. There's no judgment here, but like I know it's my gauge to know of like, all right, like, well, this, and even with me, like as I said, I have a friend. She's like very very spiritual. She like went to school to be a shaman. Like she's like
Mm-hmm.
in her spirituality, like into like quantum physics, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like Sarah. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said her name, but anyway, I said her. I feel like I should give her some anonymity, but hopefully my friend Deborah, um, she just, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever get there, and she's like, it's okay, like you are beautiful and whole as you are, like just because that I wanted to get to that level doesn't mean that like you have to become a shaman or I have to like know quantum physics, because and I'm like, well, okay. She's like, like I accept you for who you are. I'm like, well, cool, great, because like, and that we do relate on like, kind of
Other things.
energetically, but like that's the
Yeah.
thing too. I was talking with women yesterday, and it's like we just have to all accept each other where we are and meet each other where we need to be met, which is very
That's the
difficult
hard
sometimes.
part. That's the hard part. That's the hard part. When you start looking like earlier relationships, right? If you're in, and I see this, you probably see this too. If somebody starts working on themselves and they start to gain this self-awareness about themselves,
Mhm.
you also recognize, as you said, and I'll use my words for this, the lack of self-awareness that other people have about themselves. And it's not a bad thing, as you said.
No.
Not a bad thing. It's just where they are,
No.
right? And so you start to realize that and you're like, oh,
And
oh,
then
and
you're like, oh, yeah.
yeah, what do I do? How do I have this conversation now? Because my mom doesn't understand. My mom doesn't understand these traumas that I experienced, right? jokes them off because that they're this, or that you need to man up, or whatever the terms,
Yeah,
you know, that people tend to say around those things. But that's it. Like, you got it, but you have to understand that's where they are. And the minute that you can get that concept, like, it's not that you're winning, that they're winning, there's
no,
none of
it's
that
not
in
right or
play.
wrong. Yeah,
It's just that is where they are, and you meet them there, and that's all you can do. Like, it's such, it gives you such like freedom,
it does.
right? To just be
It
like,
does.
oh, okay, I don't have to be right. I don't have to be wrong. I'm just gonna meet them where they are, and that's it. That's it. That's all it is. And it's beautiful. It actually, I think, brings that relationship closer when you can
Mhm.
accept them for where they are in on whatever part of the journey they are on. And again,
Yeah.
not saying one is better than the other, just meeting them where they are. And as we started with this, seeing them for who they are. Like, it's the best thing we could do as a society.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And I feel like as a society, we are craving that. Like, I feel it. Like like the deep like, because we live in, I've never like thought like in the world, like there would just be so much content. And like, I'm sure, like as a content creator, as an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm like, how am I gonna like get through the noise? And I'm just like, I'm gonna be me and I'm gonna go deep. Like, I'm gonna go there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and those who want to follow me, cool.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you like I said, you meet me, like I'm gonna give you many different levels of content here. You
Yeah.
meet me where you need to be met, but like I'm gonna go there because I said I feel like we are in just like we're in overload and
Mm-hmm.
we've never had more abundance and like
Mm-hmm.
options in our lives, but have never felt so more disconnected.
100%.
It's
Yeah.
just like, and I'm trying to figure it out, like how to help it and how to, and do my part, in the world. But it's like, that's why I know what my little plan is. And that's what I work with my clients is figuring out what works for you. Because what works for me that might not work for you, but that's why we work together.
To figure
And
out
I'm
what
sure you do
does.
the same thing with your clients too. That's
Yeah.
why you work together to figure out what works for them.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing, Danielle, is when we work with one person, right? You already know from your experience that that changes that person's outer realm, right? So
Oh,
the people that they start
100%.
to interact with, like, I'm blessed to, in many ways, work with mothers and their daughters,
Oh,
right?
that's amazing.
First on a space that's like, first I'm working with the mother and helping the mother do her thing, right? But then there comes a place where they start to heal that relationship with their daughter, and then the daughter's like, wait, I want to do this too. And so
That's cool.
now we're changing the trajectory of that family from the way their ancestral lineage, the way that they handled things in the past, the way that their relationships were, they've changed that. And now that's going to change into the future. So, yes, maybe I've only helped a small handful of
No.
people in the world compared to the bigger population. But when we think about that ripple effect that happens, the way they interact with their coworkers, their siblings, and how
Mhm.
that ripples, man, that
Impact.
impact is huge.
Impact. And it's so funny you mentioned that because it's amazing. The cycle breakers, as they're called, the people that break
Yeah.
generational trauma, like
Hmm.
generate trauma travels through generations, as does
Yeah.
healing. So the
As does
cycle
healing.
breakers, they break the cycle, and then from there, their system can start anew. And there's a book called "It Didn't Start with You." It's all about
Yeah.
generational trauma and
Yeah.
family therapy. But yeah, I actually for some, and I maybe it's the universe. The last three podcasts I've recorded, we've all touched upon generational trauma. And I think it's just important for everybody to recognize like it is like I want to normalize it. Like
Yeah.
pretty much every system has, and not, it doesn't have to be big T trauma. Like
No.
it can be, like I'll share, like I had my mom passed away when I was in my early 20s. Like that was
Hmm.
traumatic for my family. Like,
Hmm.
but it's my job to heal from that. And if my future family, or like even indirectly my brother and my dad who are still surviving, like it's our job to heal from that together and not
Yeah.
break our system because that could have shattered
Broke.
us. It
Hmm.
could have I mean we could have went, but like no, we were like, of course we all healed in our different ways and our different
Absolutely.
timelines and whatever,
Yeah.
but like we were like no, like we're gonna heal together.
Hmm.
So, you know.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you. Well, Danie, this has been I said I could keep going and talking, but I know our listeners are probably like, "Shut up." But, where can everybody find you? Because I know you're on Instagram.
I am. So you can find me at Danie Muniz on Instagram. And you can also find me, I have a podcast called the Cosmic Mystic Podcast. And you'll hear interviews on there. You'll hear me do some like seasonal talks about how to work with the different seasons. So whatever season we're in, I'll share with you some insights on what you can do. And you can find more on that podcast. There's some breath works on there that I've done as well.
Awesome.
So lots of good stuff.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much, and it's been just such a pleasure talking to you.
You too. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Of course. And as always, you can find the Feeling and Healing podcast on my YouTube channel as well as on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.